am Parberway, and today I'm going to be showing off this non-stackable item sorter that you see in front of you. So, basically this system works. It takes items, sorts them into stackable and non-stackable, and then all the non-stackable items basically go through a flowchart of redstone machines that tell exactly, to the nearest extent that I can possibly make them do, what it is, and sorts them into chests. Now you see these chests are kind of just strewn about in the middle of the system, but I just put them where it's easiest to put them. You could really take these hopper lines and lead them wherever you want. You can lead them 1,000 blocks away. You could put them into a central storage system right there if you want to. So I'm going to explain the system and I'm going to show it off at every step. So to start off with, this is the main input chest. It then goes into this dropper, which drops it into this hopper, but it has this clock here that makes sure that it doesn't put two items right next to each other, and there's a bit of time between each item, because some of these things further on you can't have more than one item in the system at a time, and you need time for it to go through. So that's why this system does that. Now, this is the one part of the system I would change if I were ever to build this in survival, because this does make it quite slow if you have a lot of normal non-stackable items. Some might call them stackable. You'd need to wait for it all to go. So what I would do is have a smaller system like this here that waits for a less amount of time to put it into this system, which doesn't need as much time, and this sorts it between stackable and non-stackable, and then have another longer timer after that. But anyways, as I said, this one sorts it between stackable and non-stackable items. If it's stackable, then obviously, well, I should say if it's non-stackable, then this thing will have enough oomph, this redstone signal, to dispense it out or drop it out into this hopper. But if it doesn't, it'll just wait for a moment, and then this hopper underneath the dropper will unlock, and it'll go over here into where the stackable items are. So I'll just demonstrate that quickly. I've got a bit of stone, I've got a wood sword. As you see, the stones end up here, and the wood sword, well, it hasn't. It's not going through the rest of the system. But anyways, this is the potion system. Basically, if it's a potion, it'll get dropped out onto this brewing stand and go over here, but if it's not a potion, it won't be able to. So instead, it'll just come back here and go into this dispenser over here to the next station. So I'll demonstrate that shortly. It's a potion. Goes straight into this chest. As you can see, I already tested it earlier. If it's not a potion, say this wooden sword again. There's gonna be a lot of wooden swords in the system when we're done. We'll go straight over here. Now this is arguably the most complicated part of the system, and it's the part that I need to have the long delay between items for. This one is the one that separates, basically, it dispenses the item and then sees what happens to it. First, the thing that happens is this dispenser basically triggers twice, so it drops it and then it drops it again. If it's a water bucket, a lava bucket, or a bucket of powdered snow, then what will happen is that it'll dispense out and then suck back into the dispenser, and it'll be in there still. So then the hopper underneath the dispenser will unlock, and it'll go this way. Oops. If it's just a normal item that doesn't really do anything fancy with dispensers, then it'll just go down into that down to this hopper here and make its way towards the rest of the system. And if it's a shulker box, then it'll get dispensed out, and then when it fires again, it won't be like sucked back into the dispenser like liquids are. So instead, these two pistons will push across, and this one will retract, allowing it to fall directly and be pushed into this hopper. So let's follow where the shulker boxes would go. Well, first of all, let me demonstrate this system. If I were to put a bucket of powdered snow in here, get dispensed, and then that happens for every item. If I put, say, my wooden sword, trusty wooden sword in there, gets dispensed, moves across, just in case it's a shulker box. If I put an actual shulker box in there, you see, it gets pushed over into this hopper. So that's that. Now, let me follow the path of shulker boxes. Once they get dispensed there, then they get dispensed here. This piston will retract briefly, allowing it to be dispensed. Now, if the shulker box is empty, this piston will immediately extend again and push it into this hopper underneath this comparator, and it'll go into the shulker box. But if it's not empty, all the items will then be dispensed out of it before the piston can go across, and the dispensed items will end up in this water stream here, which will then take it back to the beginning and sort the the contents of the shulker box back out, because who knows what they were. So this will automatically empty your shulker boxes and sort them too. Now, if the item from here was a water bucket, a bucket of powdered snow or a lava bucket, it'll go over here, which is arguably the second most complicated machine here. And what it'll do is it'll dispense out and see exactly what happens again. Basically how much it flows. If it's water, it'll flow quickly once it's dispensed, and then this observer will push this redstone block across quickly, allowing this to unlock this hopper very quickly. And so the water, once it gets basically dispensed back into here, will come down into this chest. If it's lava, it'll flow but more slowly, so it'll come down here into this chest, since only this hopper will have time to unlock. And if it's powdered snow, it won't flow at all, and both these hoppers will stay locked, and it'll go into this top one. Now I do have a confession to make. I forgot about shears when I was making this. Shears won't dispense at all unless there's a sheet for them to shear in front of them. So what this does, basically, the shears just end up in the same chest as powdered snow, which, to be honest, isn't really a big problem, because you're never going to have that many shears or that much powdered snow, and you're never really going to need to sort them. So you could just have a shears and powdered snow chest. The only thing I can see that a problem is if you're making some sort of AFK-able farm where you need to be able to have an infinite quantity of shears or powdered snow sorted out, in which case I think you're competent enough to make a system that can sort them, because that would be trivially easy for anyone to do, not just me. So yeah, that's the water things. I will briefly, the liquids, I should say, I will briefly demonstrate. Oh yeah, I should mention, this one back here, if you have a fish, the fish will just die. That's just a risk you have to take with this farm. I couldn't figure out a way and make it unless the fish not die. Unless you somehow drop this hopper down way far, and then just had an aquarium down here for all the fish to end up in. But there's no way for the fish that's dispensed to be automatically picked back up. So, that's just, just the way it goes. Don't put your fish in here. See, if I have powdered snow, doesn't flow at all. This piston doesn't get pushed at all. It just goes back into the system. If I have water, this block gets pushed across almost immediately. If I have lava, you can see this block gets pushed across, but not for a while. So that's how that one works. And then obviously it gets sorted into their 3 chests. Now, coming back over here, if the item just dropped down immediately and wasn't water, lava, shulker box, or shears, or powdered snow, then it'll come across over here. Obviously the flow of the items will be regulated again so they're not too fast. And then this is the boat sorter. Basically, if it's not a boat, it'll go into one of these hoppers and continue over into this red thing. If it is a boat, then it'll get dispensed out into the water and continue over to these cacti. So let me just demonstrate that. First, for not a boat, just get dispensed into these hoppers immediately. And for yes, a boat. Oh, I don't have a boat in my inventory. We've got a boat here. The boat will just, do what boats like to do, flow across the water. And they'll be broken by one of these cacti. I have the chests up here because they have the same size hitboxes as the cacti. I don't know if that was a concern, but might as well. So anyways, if the thing was not a boat, then it'll go over here. This is where, basically the same thing as the boat thing, but for minecarts. If it's a minecart, it'll be dispensed onto the rail, it'll get dropped out here, and then something more complicated will happen. Well, first of all, the flow of items will be regulated again, and then it will go be sorted between stackable and non-stackable. This is because you can have a hopper with minecart, a minecart with hopper, or a minecart with a furnace, or a minecart with a chest, and you want the chest and the minecarts to end up in different places, so I have a minecart here. And there is no chest there because all the chests went back into this system over here, the same one, that the water stream that goes over here back to the beginnings of the chests and the hoppers and the furnaces. If you have minecarts with the furnaces for some reason, they can be sorted out properly. So let me just demonstrate that. If I have a normal minecart, see, yep, worried me for a second, but this one's regulated as well with the flow, but not on a green things. If I have a minecart with furnace, yeah, it'll do the same thing as well. I haven't tested this with a TNT minecart. I'm pretty sure it works correctly, but my original prototype did get blown up a bit, but I think I fixed that problem. But I don't want to blow it up right now. I'll save that for the end of the video. So anyways, if the thing's not a minecart, it'll come over here. You may have heard the sound of arrows, and that's this one. So this is the one that tells if it's armor or not. If it's armor, then it will, well, first of all, everything will go into this dispenser. If it's not armor, it'll just be dispensed out into this hopper underneath the slab. But if it is armor, before that happens, obviously, for any item, an armor stand will be dispensed here out of this dispenser. And then, if it's armor, the item will be dispensed instead of into this hopper onto the armor stand. And then the armor stand will flow down here, no matter if it has armor on it or not, and be shot by this skeleton who's constantly trying to get at this iron golem, but can't because this water stream is making the arrows always go up. So that's why there are all of these arrows here. Anyways, the items, whether it be just an armor stand or armor stand and armor, will go up this water stream right here and then be sorted, but based on whether they're stackable or not. If they're stackable, then they'll go back into the system to be dispensed again for future armor pieces, or not armor pieces. And if they aren't stackable, then they're definitely armor and they'll end up in here. So I'll just briefly demonstrate this system. Let's see, I've got my boots. The boots get dispensed onto the armor stand, and then it gets broken by the skeleton, and it flows over here, up into this system, which then regulates the flow of items, and they get sorted between stackable and non-stackable, and guess what? My boots are right here. Now, if it isn't a piece of armor, so like say for instance this sword, the armor stand will still get dispensed, but the sword won't go on the armor stand, obviously, because it can't. So instead, the sword will just end up in this everything else chest, like all the other swords I put through this system earlier. This might cause a bit of lag because of all the entities. Eventually the arrows, like, won't even be able to go into this target block, but that's a, you know, that's just another risk you have to take with this thing. Now, there are a couple caveats. Things I couldn't sort that one could theoretically sort. One of those is horse armor and saddles. You could potentially further sort the everything else chest between horse armor and saddles and everything else, because those can be automatically dispensed onto horses. The problem, you need an infinite supply of tamed horses. Now for saddles, you could also do that on pigs, so you could even further sort those things. But once again, you need a constant supply of tamed horses or pigs. Now, if you have a passive farm, the pigs aren't as hard, but the horses, you need some sort of way to, like, an auto clicker that automatically tames them and then dispenses armor onto them. You could do that. That would be extremely overcomplicated, extravagant, and I think if you're doing that, you have better things to AFK at, but you could do that. I didn't. You could. The other thing I didn't do, and this is now well beyond my abilities, is you could have a system that sorts out armors between, you know, helmet, boots, chest slot, or leggings, and yeah, you need a system of logic in several of these modules to dispense out armor stands with armor already equipped in one of a few of the slots to see, you know, which piece of armor it is, and then a way to automatically reset itself and tell which armor was dispensed before. And I don't even know if it's possible. It could be, but it's well beyond my abilities even if it is, so I don't know. Ask your neighborhood's computer science major, maybe they'll have an answer for you. But I am not that, so this system is good enough for me, and it should be good enough for you as well. It is a bit big, to be honest, but yeah, I'm definitely going to be building this in my survival world. So if you want to see a tutorial for it, obviously that's not what this video has been. This has been more of a showcase, but if you want to see that, you can comment below, and I will, if enough people do that, I'll make one. But anyways, I've been Parberway. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, you could give it a like. That would be a logical thing to do. If you enjoyed it, more enjoyable content in the future could be had if you would just only subscribe. So, yeah, thanks for watching. See you next time. I'm out. Goodbye. If you did hear that noise outside earlier, that's because they're digging up my sidewalk again. They haven't been doing it at any point else this week, but only until now they've waited to do that.